Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone from wherever and whatever time you are listening to us. I am Numan Yakat, your mentor for SBR revision session June 2020. So let's start our today's agenda for SBR revision session. But before starting this, bear in mind that this is a brief introduction session what our SBR revision session covers basically. For detailed session, you can contact us and our contact details are being provided at the end of this video basically. So let's start our today's revision session. But before starting, let's have a quick overview about the tutor introduction. As I mentioned that I am Noman Liaquat, your mentor. About my brief introduction, I am Chartered Accountant, ICAW member and ACCA member. Apart from that, I am member of other bodies of IFAC as well. I have more than 5 years of industry experience and have worked at various positions in accounts and finance, reporting and audit in various organizations, public limited companies and private limited companies as well. Apart from that, I have more than 6+ years of teaching experience and I am a tutor for ACCA ICAEW, that is basically a chartered accountancy qualification, and CMA USA as well. Apart from that, currently I am also a lecturer at a university as well. So this was brief introduction about myself. So let's move towards today's agenda, that is basically SBR revision session June 2020. These are the content of our orientation basically, but we are going to just discuss what are the important areas. First of all, past paper analysis. We will be discussing what are the past papers, what the SBR examiner has tested in recent exam basically, and what is analysis basically. Then poor performance area. This area will cover basically what are the weakest areas of the students basically, what are the common mistake, what they do basically, where they lack basically. So we are going to discuss what are the common failure mistakes of students basically. Then reading the exam requirement. Another common problem of students is that basically they do not read exam requirement very carefully. Then after reading, they have to write out and plan out their answers. So we will tell you how to write out your answer in exam basically and how to manage things basically. Understanding of marking key, that is another vital area for the student, because most of the time either they write too much or they write too less, and unfortunately they do not get their passing marks or very good marks as well. So we will brief you how to understand the examiner key and marking key basically. Another common thing which students mostly miss out is basically there are a lot of easy marks in almost every question basically. So how you can get those easy marks, we will explain you how to get those easy marks and how to manage your things. Another thing is basically, as we know that SBR exam is basically our IAS International Accounting Standards and IFRS International Financial Reporting Standard exam basically. So how to remember, how to solve out those questions basically, how to remember a lot of IAS and IFRS, as we know that there are a lot of things basically, and we have to revise from IAS 1, that is basic standard, to IFRS 16 basically, and apart from that there are some current issues and some other areas as well. So how you can remember all of those IAS, IFRS and other points basically. Apart from that, we will also discuss revision techniques, remembering techniques for IAS and IFRS. Then another common and poor performance area of student is basically dealing with the ethics, how to deal with the ethical issues, how to identify those issues, how to answer those issues basically, and how to write down for your ethical issues. Then we will be discussing the current issues basically, what are the current issues, how we can remember them, and how we can relate them with our current IAS and IFRS as well. Then there will be a tutor support. You can contact your tutor. You can contact me through WhatsApp, through email, through LinkedIn, through Facebook page. So there are a lot of options available for students. Then we will be discussing time management techniques, and finally, we will be sharing some final exam tips and techniques for students. Hopefully, they will be useful for passing their exam in future as well. As I mentioned, that these are contents of our orientation of our revision session basically, but we are going to cover only few points. As for complete session, you can contact us, and our contact details are basically being mentioned at the end of our video. So let's take how to read the exam requirement basically. That because this is one of the poor area of the student, because if you do not read the exam requirement carefully, then definitely student might have to suffer in the real exam. This is an exam requirement from December 2018 past paper basically, December 2018, and this is question number 2. Question number 2 basically. So let's look at discuss how the Helm property should have been accounted for and explain the implications for the financial statements and the debt covenant of Fiskerton company, and we have 7 marks. So what could go wrong basically? The first problem with the student is that they might misunderstand the requirement. They might treat it in a wrong way, in an inappropriate way basically, and they might think that they have to discuss the accounting treatment of Helm property basically, while another problem with the student is that basically that they might explain the implications in journal terms, generally basically, while what is the exam requirement basically. If we look at carefully, then first of all we can see that our requirement uses the word and. So whenever you have been given the word and, it means your requirement has been broken down into 2 parts. One is before and second is after and basically. So it means we have to write our answer, we have to break down our answer in 2 areas. One is before and second is after and. So let's read it again and read it very carefully. Discuss how the Helm property should have been accounted for. Discuss. First of all, we do not need to identify. It means we have to explain. We have to discuss how the Helm property should have been accounted for. It means how we have to account for according to relevant accounting standard or relevant financial reporting standard basically, that will be applicable in our exam. But when we look at this requirement, then it comes to our mind, then definitely there might be a wrong treatment from the client side basically. That's why examiner has asked us that how Helm property should have been accounted for. It means there will be an inappropriate accounting treatment from the client side, first of all. Second, explain the implications for the financial statements and the debt covenant of Fiskerton. Again, if we look at, then we have to explain the implication. What will be the impact? What will be the implication for the financial statement, number 1. And second is debt covenant of Fiskerton basically. And how we can explain it out, that what will be the implication. Again, this implications part has been broken down in 2 areas. One is for financial statements and second is for debt covenant. Again, there is a possibility, as I mentioned, that student might misunderstand that they have to explain the implication for one side, while the requirement states that they have to explain the implication for 2 areas. One is financial statement and second is debt covenant basically. If we understand misappropriately, or if we miss out one part basically, definitely we will be losing some of the easiest mark. So this is the way, as I mentioned. The first part is basically discuss how it would be, and second part is basically discussing the implication for financial statement and implication for debt covenant of Fiskerton company. And in real exam, it is better to use separate headings basically. Implications for financial statements and implications for debt covenant basically, because it will be easier for us as a student, and it will be easier for markers, for our tutors basically, to understand what they have asked from us and what we have answered basically. So it will be easy for the both parties. Another brief example of ethical issues, because this is one of the common area, poor area of the student basically. So let's look at in detail. Again, this is an exam requirement from December 2018. And it is question number 2. We are going to discuss this ethical part. Explain any ethical issues which may arise from the managing director and the accountant from each of the scenarios basically. We have to explain. We do not need to identify only, but we have to explain it as well. ethical issues basically. If you are appearing in SBR exam, it is quite possible that you might be studying your AAA P7 exam along with SBR, else you might have passed out your F8 exam basically. And we have studied a lot about our ethics, but we have to be specific in our exam requirement basically. What could go wrong in ethical issues? First of all, students have no idea how to identify ethical issues. If you have no idea about identification, then how you can explain your ethical issues basically. And another common area of student is basically they might be thinking they have to mention out the ethical issues only, but they do not know again we have a word of and. It means we have to explain the ethical issues which may arise for the managing director, number one, and the accountant from each of these scenario. It means again there are two parties in our this statement basically. One is managing director and second is basically accountant. Two parties. So we have to answer according to these two parties basically. Again, in most of the exam basically we see that in our ethics question basically one is senior person, like in our case this is managing director, and second is basically a much junior person who is an accountant in this question. So we have to keep in mind that we have to answer according to both parties. So mostly two types of issues. First of all, identification of issues, then we have to discuss, we have to develop our answer plan, then we have to explain the ethical issues, what could be the conclusions, what could be the ethics marking key basically. We are going to discuss this part and much explanation about those issues and those areas in our complete revision session basically. Now, these are basically just the heading. These are just basically the overall contents, but we are going to discuss each heading and each content in our much detail in our complete session basically. So thank you very much for listening to us. I hope you have enjoyed our brief video. So you can get our complete revision course at colpros.com. You can contact us with us through WhatsApp. These are our contact details. So you can contact us. Apart from that, you can like our Facebook page and you can contact us through here. Apart from that, you can contact me through LinkedIn, through email. So there are various ways through you can contact us. Thank you. I hope you have enjoyed our video and good luck to all of you for your exam basically. Have a good time.